Hi, friends. It's your pal Scott Garibay, and today I want to talk about. I want to give a field report for um, the Harrowed, within the Harrowed. All right. So, what is the Harrowed? Well, I'm really fascinated by being poor, right? Not having wealth, but when I say the words poor, it just feels they're so they're we language is so powerful, and some terms are just so abrasive and they seem insulting, right? And I feel like the when I say American poor or someone's poor, it seems insulting, and I want to talk about the issues of people who do not have wealth, but I don't want to insult them, right? So when I say harrowed, I mean American poor, okay? People who do not have money in America right now, okay? And so I'm going to use the term harrowed. All right. So I had a really unusual, and by the way, also, you can't say homeless, right? And sometimes you don't, like, somebody could be very poor, but still live in a house, right? And so they're technically not homeless. But even the term homeless is very problematic, right? People say unhoused, but then when you say unhoused, you sound very pretentious, and like it sounds like political speech. It sounds like political correctness, right? But so I think harrowed, is it's very accurate. So I had an encounter with a harrowed person, and what's interesting is, so I was within my own area, right? And I live in the suburbs of Philadelphia, and we will see harrowed people every now and then walking around and asking for money, but it's quite rare, right? In the city, it's extremely common, right? And in Philadelphia itself, Philadelphia proper, in pretty much all areas. And some areas are, much more. It's more prevalent, right? So I was in my own area, and I'm going about my day, and this gentleman walked up to me, and he said, "Sorry, no hablo inglés," and then he held up his phone, and his phone looked old. It looked pretty ragged, right? And I was like, "Whoa," like, and so I read, the top paragraph on his phone, and it was Spanish. Right now, I don't speak Spanish. Right, I did take 3 years of it in high school. I can't speak a word of it. Muy caliente. I don't even know what that means. I think it means very hot, right? Like, so I do not speak Spanish, right? So I skipped down, and then there was the translation of what he had said, and it said, "May God bless you," and then it said, um, you know, I am. Could you give me a coin? Could you give me a coin? And I was like, oh, he's asking for money, right? Like, so one, I'm an evangelical Christian, and we are instructed to tithe, right? And so right out of the gate, this is an opportunity. So I can, I can, any Christian could give to people who are harrowed, and that's going to count toward your tithe, in my humble opinion. It is debated within the church. There's this whole thing about the storehouse and all, but I'm going to spare you that. So, so immediately I knew I had cash in my wallet, and that's not always the case, right? So I was like, oh, good, And so then I went into my wallet, and I had a bunch of ones, and and then I kind of, I was like, do I have a five? So I got a five, and I handed him the five, and then he did the Catholic cross, right, to himself, and he said thank you, right, and then he just left, right. And it was very smooth exchange, right. And sometimes when you are able to help the harrowed, with some cash, sometimes it's not a smooth exchange. It might be a little scary. It might be a little frustrating. I've had situations where I've had situations where the same thing happened, and the person was like, "That's not enough. I need more." They said it different, but you're like, ugh, like. And this was a blessing on both sides. I felt good that I was able to bless this gentleman, this harrowed gentleman, and I was also felt good that he was very thankful. Like, he was like, and he even like was saying, "Okay, thank God for you." Right. And that's a wonderful, that's a wonderful thing, like, for someone to say thank God for you. But the other thing is, what's happening right now? Are we in a tough time in America? And it's very hard. Like, Donald Trump sent troops into DC. And people were like, the crime's not that bad. It's not needed. And other people are like, oh, the crime is off the chisel, like off the chisane. Like, it is very bad. And frankly, we need to do this in a lot of cities, right? Like, if people are like, I don't know, that's like U.S. troops on U.S. soil and using weapons against U.S. citizens, like, so like, is it bad or is it good, right? And one, I will say this right now, that's unusual for the Harrowed to show up in the suburbs of Philadelphia. I'm not upset by it, but I'm like, that's a signal, right? And I do believe I've heard people starting to talk about this two-tier economy. Do you have money or do you not, right? And if you have money, everything's great, right? And if you don't have a skill set, if you're challenged in particular ways with your skill set or with your communication skills or with your social skills, you could really fall into a deep crevice in American society right now. And that's frightening for a lot of people, right? And so it is definitely a signal that things aren't going great, that I just had, like, the encounter I just had, I'll have that every single time I go into Philadelphia. Every single time. And I'll probably have it if I go in and I spend even 2 hours, I'll hit it 2 or 3 times, right? But it's rare to see that even once every 3 months in the suburbs, in the southern suburbs of Philadelphia. So it is a signal, right? What's it like in your area? I'd love to hear. That's my field report for the southern suburbs of Philadelphia. Every single word you just heard in this video was my humble opinion, nothing more, nothing less. The important part is when I get to hear your humble opinion, when you get in the comments and send your traffic. Please consider subscribing and have a fetch millennium.